So we already discussed how a participle participates in verbs. We discussed how a participle participates in nouns. And now we're going to discuss how a participle participates with adjectives, meaning how are we going to identify that something's a participle, and also how we will translate a participle that is functioning as an adjective. We mentioned that the participle is very similar to adjectives in that there are 4 conjugations, right? Masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural, and feminine plural, right? So they have the same conjugations, and the suffixes are identical. For example, right, we have for feminine singular, we have the kamatse suffix in Old Biblical Hebrew for the participle, and for the adjective we have the kamatse. We have the im suffix for masculine plural, the im suffix for masculine plural, the ot suffix for feminine plural, ot for feminine plural. So we see that the suffixes are the same as well. So now let's look to how to identify when a participle is acting as an adjective. What's the regular way for me to see an adjective in Tanakh? I almost always see it accompanying a noun, right? So let's take a noun, ha'ish, right? So ha'ish. We're going to go with the more common type of adjective, where ha'ish is going to agree in definiteness, so it's going to have that hey prefix. It's going to agree in number, so it's going to be 1, male, right? And then gender, male. So ha'ish, hatov. So how do I translate this? This translates as the good man. Where do I expect my participle that's functioning as an adjective to appear in this formula? So similarly, I'm going to have some sort of noun. So take the same noun, ish, ha'ish, and then I'm going to add a participle where my adjective is. So similar to a regular adjective, it's going to have to agree in definiteness. It's going to have a ha, right? And it's going to agree in number. So it's going to be masculine singular, right? And it's going to agree also in gender, masculine. So let's use a case of ha'ish ha kotev. Okay, we'll get to translating it later. But here I see that I have to have first my noun and then my adjective, and it's going to agree in definiteness. See my has in both cases. We have to remember that a definite noun can appear in 3 ways. It could appear, as we mentioned before, with that hey prefix, like we have ha'anashim over here, the hey meaning the. The second way is when I have a possessive ending. Here I have ishtacha, so your wife, so it's a possessive ending. And my third way is if I have a name. Here I have Avraham, a name. So if I take any of these, like let's take Avraham, the third one, and I combine it with a participle that's definite, right? Because Avraham's definite, Avraham's specific. That's here we have Avraham's masculine singular, right? So Avraham ha-holech. So Avraham ha-holech, here it's apparent that my ha-holech has to be a participle functioning as an adjective. So here I just rewrote Avraham ha-holech here on the bottom here, right? And you can see that it's going to follow the same exact formula that we mentioned before with a regular noun and adjective. So let's take the case before we had of ha'ish, hatov, right? So here I have, in both cases, I have my noun, my definite noun, right? Avraham and ha'ish. And in both cases, I have something that's definite, ha-holech, right, at my ha, and my ha-tov, right, at my ha, and they agree with the noun in terms of gender and number. And you can see that the same thing holds true with ishtacha, ha-kotevet can work together, right? Ishtecha hakotevet are both specific. So hakotevet would be functioning as my adjective, and Ishtecha is my noun. Ha'anashim, ha'shomrim. Ha'anashim is functioning as my noun, and ha'shomrim, if they're put together, would be my adjective. In both cases, they're definite. They both have the ha prefix, and they both have plural, masculine plural endings. So here we see how the participle can fit into the adjective slots. I like to call this the ha rule after the first category of definite nouns when there's a ha prefix before my noun, like we have with ha'anashim, and we see the second ha before the adjective of ha'shomrim. So I like to call this the ha rule. And we could see it in the following example. Hamelech hayoshev. So in both cases, in both words that we have here, there's a ha prefix, hamelech, hayoshev. So I know that the first word is going to be my definite noun, and my second word is going to be my definite adjective. And I know it's a participle because I have my O sound for hayoshev, hayoshev between the yod and the shin. So now we can identify when I'm dealing with a participle functioning as an adjective. Next, I'm going to try to figure out how to translate a participle that's functioning as an adjective. Here I have 3 participles functioning as an adjective. In all 3 cases, I have that O sound, ha-shomeret, ha-molech, ha-ro'ot. I have the cholam between the first 2 letters of my shoresh. In all 3 cases, I have a definite noun. I have ha-isha, right, which is the definite article, the. I have a name, Achashverosh, that's a specific person, that's definite. And I have a possessive ending, einecha, your eyes. Okay, so in all 3 cases, I have a specific noun, a definite noun, and I also have a definite adjective, a definite participle. I have hashomeret, hamolech, haro'ot. Okay, so I have that he prefix before my second word. So my first word is my noun, and my second word is my adjective. Okay? Now, how do I translate this? So in order to translate this into English, the best thing to do is to add who or that between the 2 words. So ha'isha hashomeret would be the woman who, shomeret, who guards. Now, in order for me to figure out if it's guards or was guarding, I have to look to the narrator or to the speaker rule that we mentioned before with verbs. So here in the next one, Achashverosh hamolech, is from Megillat Esther, where I have a narrator. Okay, so let's translate it. Achashverosh hamolech. So it's going to be Achashverosh hamolech, who ruled or who was ruling. Either one would be acceptable. Who was ruling or who ruled. Now, this is an English issue that you use the word who when you're referring to people, but you use the word that when you're referring to objects. I'm not going to be specific when you're translating, but just be aware of that for your English expression if you choose to be accurate. So, einecha haro'ot would be your eyes. Haro'ot, that, because eyes are inanimate objects, your eyes that see. So notice that in all 3 cases, I had to add who or that when I was translating the participle functioning as an adjective into English. Okay, so let's look at this in action in regular psukim. So here I see two examples where I have a noun and I have a participle functioning as an adjective. So look at the first case in Yehoshua. Notice that I have a ha-ha, right? Ha-ha. And notice that my second word has that O sound, right? That indicates that I'm dealing with a participle, ha-yoridim, rhymes with shomerim. Okay, so my first word is going to be my noun, and my second word is going to be my adjective. Okay, so hamayim, right? Mayim is plural in Hebrew. It's the im suffix, right? Yordim is plural, right? So it matches in gender and a number. So hamayim is the water. And water is inanimate, so it gets a that. If you wrote who, it'd be acceptable, but that is more precise. The water that, what's yordim, that descends. And when I look at the next example in Bereshit, again I see the first two words. I have a noun, lot, ha-holech. I have my participle that's functioning as an adjective. So notice that I have that O sound right in the middle, holech, rhymes with shomer, my cholim chaser. And notice that they're both definite, they're both specific. Lot is the name of a person, it's a name, right? It's a name, so that counts as definite. And my second word is my ha, right? From my ha-ha. So that tells me that it's specific. I have my the definite article, okay? So it's lot, who, because I'm talking about a person, lot, who. Now I have a narrator or a speaker here. Here I have a narrator. Okay, so lot who was walking, or lot who was going. Et Avraham, et here means with. Usually ignore it, but here it means with. Lot who was going or who was walking with Abraham. Now let's look at some more examples where this is going to be in action. Here we have 4 psukim where we have a participle that's functioning as an adjective. In Shmot, in number 24, Hashem hika, Hashem struck, Bechor Paro, the firstborn of Paro, Hayoshev al Kiso. Okay, so let's look at this. So Bechor Paro, okay, so the firstborn of Paro. So even though it's Michut, we're going to separate it. We'll do Bechor Paro. So is Paro a noun? Okay, and it's a specific noun. It's definite. It's a name, right? And then my next word is Hayoshev, right? So I have a participle, right, at my O sound, my cholam, between my yud and my shin. And it's functioning as an adjective, right? It's my participle, it's functioning as an adjective. And we said that when I translate this, I have to add a word. Can you remember what word that is? I have to add either who or that. And when I'm dealing with people, I add the word who. So the firstborn of Paro, who, so it's a narrator, who was sitting, or who sat, I'd accept, who was sitting, al kiso, on his seat, on his throne. Okay, so Hashem struck the firstborn of Paro, who was sitting on his throne. Look at number 25. Vayisa malach ha'elokim ha'holech lifnei machane Yisrael. So my malach ha'elokim is smichut, right, for the messenger of God. Notice that I have ha'elokim, ha-holech, right? I have a ha-ha word here, right, phrase here. Ha-holech is a participle. I know it's a participle because I have that cholam between the first 2 letters of my shoresh. It rhymes with shomer, right? So ha-holech, holech, right? And I have ha-holech, okay? So what word do I have to add in the middle? I have to add who. So I translate it as follow: Malach ha'elokim ha'holech lifnei machane Yisrael, the messenger of God, who was walking or was going before the camp, Machan is camp, before the camp of Israel. So the Malcha Elokim, the messenger of God, who was walking before the camp of Israel, this Malacha Elokim, he traveled. Okay? Now let's look at number 26. In Devarim, we have Moshe speaking to Bnei Israel, Ki Hashem Elokechem, HaHolech Imachem. So HaHolech is my participle. I have my O sound in the middle between my He and my Lamed, right? It rhymes with Shomer. And notice that the word before it, Elokechem, right? Elokechem has that chem suffix, right? Telling me it's a possessive ending, which means it's definite. So I know that this is going to be my noun, and the participle is going to be my adjective. Notice it's a ha-ha in a way because it's definite. So I translate it, because Hashem, your God, ha-holech. So what word do I have to add between ha-ha, right? What do I have to add? I have to add who or that. I'm not sure if we refer to God as an it or more anthropomorphically, like similar to a person. So I'm not sure if it's because Hashem, your God, who goes with you, or that goes with you. But either way, that goes or who goes with you, you have to add one or the other, at least who or that. Now let's look to number 27. This is from Megillat Esther. Hu Achashverosh. He is Achashverosh, which is a name, right? Which is a noun. It's a definite noun because it's a name. He is Achashverosh. HaMolech. So HaMolech, I have that O sound between the first two letters of my shoresh. It rhymes with Shomer. And it's definite, right? I have that He prefix. So in a way, it's a ha-ha. So what word do I have to add in the middle? I have to add who. So I add who. So Achashverosh, who was ruling, me Hodu va'ad Kush, from Hodu until Kush. So notice that in each and every one of these cases, I had a definite noun followed by a definite adjective, and my adjective was a participle. In each of these cases, I had to add a word between the two when I was translating it, and I added the word who, or I could have added the word that if I'm dealing with an inanimate object. Okay, so that's how we translate it. Now let's look at a summary of everything that we've discussed about the participle. So now let's look at a summary of the participle. So we discussed that the participle participates with verbs, adjectives, and nouns. As a verb, we mentioned that we look for a narrator or a speaker, right? If it's a narrator, it's most common to see it as the past continuous, that was ing form. On occasion, you can see it in regular past tense. However, if there's a speaker, it's going to be usually present tense and occasionally future tense. We discussed as a noun, you're going to see it most often definite, so you're going to see it regular with that he prefix, meaning the. You could see it in smichutz. Specifically, you can always identify smichut with that a suffix. And you can see it in possessive ending. Then you know it's a noun. And we said that when you translate it as a noun, you ask who is the person doing the action, doing the shoresh. Okay, so we said you can always add the right? Sitter, etc. Dweller. As an adjective, right, we're going to look for that ha-ha, right? Ha-ha. The definite, again, the first ha is a noun, and the second one's an adjective. And the first one we said could also be a name, not just a ha, it could be a possessive ending. And the second one, the adjective, is where we're going to find our participle. Our participle would go in the second slot because it's functioning as an adjective. In that case, what word do I add in the middle? I either add that or I add who. Okay, so this is the summary of the participle that participates in verbs, nouns, and adjectives.